So recently, The Verge posted this article called "Superheroes Don't Exist to Solve Problems; They Exist to Punch Bad Guys," and the article basically bitches about how these superheroes don't actually use their powers to get to the root of problems. They just, a bad guy comes up wanting to rob a bank and they punch them in the face. They don't actually get to the core of corruption or anything. I thought this article was fucking stupid. It was one of the most stupidest arguments I've ever read. I'll let you guys field it. Who wants to go first on this?
I will.
Okay, Proto.
You see, the thing that pissed me off about that article is that fail to understand that superheroes don't usually punch anyone in the face because they want. It's because they need to. Look at a creature like Doomsday. You can't You can't talk to this character because he's a fucking beast that cannot be stopped. He is literally destruction incarnate, and the only way to stop him is to knock him out. But I don't know who thought this was a great idea or thought this article was going to be successful, but he needs to read more comic books to understand it. Anyone next?
Yeah, when I was reading it, it just sounded like an old man wrote this, who was completely out of touch with the genre. I'll let George go next on this.
I didn't read the article is the thing, and
okay. I'll let Sylvia go. I'll go now then. If you want to read it now, very quickly, I'll.
Yeah, I'm gonna read it.
Have you read it?
No.
Okay, Ryoga, I'll let you talk for a bit. I know you made a very good argument against this piece on the.
Yes, I did comment this on the Master Tunes Facebook page. There's a reason why these people are why the superheroes are who they are in the comics, that they portray the deepest fantasies that we the people in the real world wish it could be the case. And it doesn't just apply to Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, even mythological superheroes like Thor or Perseus or Zeus. These kinds of characters have these amazing powers, be it mythological or fictional, that's based on our imagination, that we ourselves wish we could be one day, but for obvious reasons, it's practically impossible. So
it's escapism, isn't it? It's not about.
Yes, I was trying to remember the motivation J.R.R. Tolkien had when he was making the Lord of the Rings trilogies, that he made that book as sort of an escape during the World War period. I don't know if it's World War I, World War II that he was in, but when the war was going on, and I think he was a soldier at the time, he was having post-traumatic stress syndrome at some point. And so he created these books and all these characters which he fantasizes, and with all these amazing abilities and powers. So that resonated with the audience when they read the book. So yeah, so the same thing is in the case of these superheroes. They don't need to be doing real life problems, because like I said before in my comments, that let's say, for example, Bruce Wayne decided to use all of his money to go to the US government and say, hey, look, let's make a system that'll stop crime forever, so we can put Joker in jail for good or something like that. That's not going to work, because quite frankly, number one, the main reason being, number one, it's a fictional world. So whatever happens to that, it's not going to happen here. And it's completely and totally irrelevant.
And another thing is that, like, if someone did that in the real world, it still wouldn't help anything. There would still be crime.
Yeah.
Just because you donate a bunch of money to the police department doesn't mean they're your
They're going to
city is
suffer.
going to be safe.
Because I mean, in my opinion, with stuff like that, definitely more attention and care and money towards trying to find a solution to these sorts of problems in our society. Definitely that is worth pursuing. But in my mind, the main root of the problem is, like, humans are not evolved enough to be rid of this sort of corruption and thievery. I mean, like, I don't want to get too much into like the whole biology aspect, but we're not that much evolved really from the animals that we came from. Like, there's quite clear comparisons to how animals behave and how we behave and how we're motivated to do things. So, like, if you're poor and haven't got a lot of money and you want something, you're gonna take it. I mean, that's kind of like animalistic in a way. So I think until we actually physically evolve, there's always going to be problems like that.
Right. Like,
I mean, it's quite like a deep, sweeping thing to say. I mean, I'm not saying like everybody who's bad, it's not their fault, it's like the biology thing. But as a more like existential viewpoint.
Yeah, like, we're not evolved enough to really live in our society, like, properly.
Yeah, actually makes me think of Interstellar. There's a really good quote in that movie where humans have evolved to feel compassion for other people and the friends and family around them, and even strangers, but they don't have the level of compassion to care about their species. So they wouldn't sacrifice their own survival for the sake of the future, not directly who's around.
Right.
I mean, that's quite powerful to me. I think that's. I mean, yeah.
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, like, another thing. They complain about how they don't use their money for more passive purposes. They do, like, time and time again. The Wayne Corporation. It's in episodes, it's in comics, it's in movies. It's shown how the Wayne organization has set up charities. They've donated to hospitals. They've done this. They've done that. Batman is using his money to improve the infrastructure of society.
Right.
He just, there are some problems he has to physically confront.
Right, and even in the worst Batman movie, Batman and Robin, he just did a fundraiser to help, like, the needy of Gotham.
Exactly.
Like, even in the worst movie, he's using his money and the Wayne Foundation to do good in the city.
Exactly. That's a really great, yeah.
Let me just add in here a little bit. The article does state that the author, his name is Vlad Roloff or something, does prefer to a movie like V for Vendetta, which is based on a DC comic book of the same name, where the hero there doesn't have any superpowers at all, but rather he uses his sense of wit to take out the bad guys. So he preferred to have superheroes to be not just in future adaptations, but in current versions of superheroes from DC and Marvel to be more like this character from V for Vendetta in a sense.
That doesn't make sense because not every character is like V.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
V is an
Exactly.
extremist, like, almost terrorist. Like, that's how far he goes. Like, Batman isn't gonna do that stuff, you know?
I mean,
Exactly.
Alan Moore, his style of comics, he doesn't do fantasy as much, which it doesn't mean he's better or worse. He just does it in a different way. That's quite important to understand. Like, V doesn't really have superpowers, so he's not like, he's not going to fly into space, then look down on Earth and you have some sort of really spiritual moment. He's not like that. He handles very realistic circumstances, and he problem solves in a very, fairly realistic manner. I mean,
Except for when he writes in a giant squid at the end of the story.
Yeah. I mean, the way I say it, it's like if a movie came out about magic in a school, and it was very gritty and realistic, and, they learnt their magic, and then they went out and helped normal people, like, and they cured cancer and stuff, and they did that. Even if it was very good, it wouldn't mean it's better than Harry Potter, Harry Potter,
Right.
it's never brought up how they could help the Muggles with cancer and illnesses, even slightly. But it doesn't make it worse. It's a fantasy. It's not
Right.
supposed to be a deep
Exactly.
look at society.
And the other thing too is that you have to remember that these characters, at least in theory, are supposed to be real people.
exactly. Yeah.
They have their own problems within their own lives. Sure, Superman could go around and build all the buildings ever in the world, but he doesn't have time because he has to worry about going on a date with Lois Lane. They have real problems.
Yeah. It's with firemen, quite a realistic example. They could literally spend all their time just driving around in the truck and putting out fires or helping people, rescuing cats off trees or some shit. But they're people.
Right.
They got families to go home to.
Exactly, and they're not any less good for taking care of themselves,
Yeah.
They give all they can to other people, and they have every right to take that time for themselves and to worry about their own problems.
Exactly. George, you've just read it. What do you think?
I don't know, really. I guess it does piss me off that whoever the fuck this author is reading too much into what Ryoga was probably saying about how these were just basically fantasies, character-driven fantasies, but that doesn't mean that that's all that it is. There's depth to these characters. There's more to them than just punching bad guys. With last week and with this week, we're going to be talking about with Planet Hulk, and last week with Flashpoint Paradox. There's a reason with Thomas Wayne, I explained to you, why he's my favorite Batman is because he's got depth to what he's doing and why he's killing people. He's not killing them just for the sake of being a killer and getting outraged. He's doing it because he thinks that's the right thing to do, because he knows deep down that he failed. And he failed the worst possible way, and he lost his son, and he lost his wife. And with this article, he's just breaking down to them just being just violent punching machines, and really that's not who they are. Superheroes, originally they were just people that we relate to and give us fantasies of what could be, but now when you look at some of the newer comics and and even the movies, there's real life scenarios for these characters. There's depth to them.
Yeah,
you break it down, they are just punching bad guys, but they're doing it for a purpose. They aren't just doing it for the sake of propaganda and shit like that. Also, I want to bring this up. A little thing I saw in the article, I copied it and I put it in the chat, and I'm going to read it right loud. Just once, I'd like to see a superhero where this protagonist can you read it out loud for me, Carson?
I'll find it.
Sorry, what?
So, just once, I'd like to see a superhero movie where the protagonist's innate abilities are matched by a proactive mind that can solve problems without resorting to violence.
Iron Man 3.
The Dark Knight.
Yeah, I mean...
Are you fucking shitting me?
That's all that's the whole purpose of the movie, isn't it?
Exactly. The joke. I haven't watched it in months or anything and shit like that. Even then, the Joker, his plan outmatches Batman. It costs him. I'm not going to spoil it because everyone has seen The Dark Knight. If you haven't seen The Dark Knight, you've clearly been living in a cave for most of your life. No offense.
Yeah, I mean,
part of his character and part of the archetype, he lost his girlfriend in a fire because he had to sacrifice because of the grand scheme of his plan. He fucking idiot! You fucking fuck! I hate you.
That's the whole
idiot. I am sick and tired of this fucking bullshit this year. I mean, sure, we've gotten a lot of greatly written articles about this. Lynn Carr did a great bit in Okay, and there's this great scene where he just breaks out in front of this critic saying that all she's doing is just putting on fancy words and doesn't really know the true meaning of structure, depth, and camera angles. All he's doing is just wanting to put some shit on a Blu-ray cover. That's what this is. I am sick of this. It's fucking bullshit. Unless you actually give out some valid facts for this, I am not listening to you idiotic piece of shit article.
Yeah, I mean, just a quote here from the article. why must the initiative and disruption always come from the supervillains? I've just watched Guardians of the Galaxy, and I wonder what any of the heroes would be doing if it weren't for the bad guy stepping in to make things interesting. The crazy thing about superhero tales is that more often than not, they move to the rhythm of the active and dynamic anti-hero than the reactive and theatrically overdressed good guys. I guess it would
steal anyone?
It adds depth if they do that, but it's not integral to the overall story and genre. And it does happen anyway. It does happen anyway.
The thing is like, you could say that about every movie, like, I've ever seen, like, because you have to have the antagonist.
Yeah.
Like,
And then, like, movies that don't necessarily have an antagonist, they still have, like, this dreading evil about them. There's a conflict. There's a reason for the story to exist and what the characters have to learn.
Right, like...
And so what this idiot is saying, basically, is that the hero should cause destruction, just as much destruction as the villain. That's not how storytelling works, you fucking dumbass!
I don't understand.
God, who is this? I'm seriously looking up who wrote this piece of shit. Okay, give me a second.
I don't understand what, like, he means by that. Like, I wonder what they would be doing if it weren't for the villain. Like, let's take, I don't know, what's that movie with Bradley Cooper and he takes the pill? I forget what it's called.
Limitless.
Yeah, Limitless. Okay, let's take Limitless. I wonder what Bradley Cooper would be doing without the pill. Like... It's the exact same thing.
Yeah,
like
the thing is, it's not. He's trying to make it more about superheroes, but you could literally apply this to so
literally any
much.
piece of fiction.
Yeah, so much.
I mean, like you take one aspect out of the movie that is the central part of the story. You cannot have a story.
Yeah, like, I wonder what Romeo and Juliet would be doing if their families weren't feuding. Like...
Yeah,
World War II, I wonder what the Allies would be doing if they weren't trying to rescue all the Jews from the concentration camps.
Right, like, it's just a...
I wonder what Freddy Krueger would be doing in his spare time when he's not murdering people.
Yeah, like, it's just a silly argument.
Yeah, I wonder why in the hell Matthew McConaughey went into space when he left his daughter behind in this Interstellar, which I just saw again, I think that's a good example. You take one aspect out of that movie, you cannot have the movie. I don't know if any of you seen it?
Yes.
I haven't.
It's great. I really liked it.
Oh yeah, seriously. I saw it with my dad and my brother. We both all loved it. My dad already saw it. Anyway, you take one aspect out of that movie, like it's all a central timeline. Like the movie literally tackles the ideas of timelines, and that's what I love about time travel movies and stuff like that. Literally one piece. That's what the butterfly effect and Flashpoint Paradox dealt with this. You take one small piece of the story out, and it causes a massive chain effect. We have talked about this in like tons of. This has been explored so many times, and you haven't ever thought of this, you fucking dumbass?
I mean, the other thing, I can kind of see what he's getting at. I mean, like, it's good to see them when they're not directly just fighting the bad guys, seeing them do good things, so it shows they're innately good. I mean, a really good example, whatever you think of the movie, Amazing Spider-Man 2, there's a really good bit where he's literally just helping out people with kind of trivial matters, like, there's a kid who these bullies broke his science project, and Spider-Man comes and scares them away, and he takes the time to help him fix his project. Like, I like that, but it's not so detrimental to the film. Like, it doesn't suddenly make the heroes arseholes.
Yeah.
Like, because we've already said they have lives. They have lives. They want to.
Yeah.
They don't have to do good all the time.
Yeah.
Also, like,
I just read this article and I thought it was just propaganda, but now I'm digging into it. This is probably the worst written article ever. I'm not joking.
I think probably, like, the main thing I took away from the article is that he wants superhero movies, specifically the movies, to be less about the superheroes just punching things and more about them being as characters. Would you agree?
Yeah.
And I kind of see that.
Absolutely.
Like in a lot of the Marvel movies, I find it's
Yeah.
a lot about the final battle, right?
Yeah.
And not so much about like character development and stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then you could say the same thing about half the action movies that they put out.
Exactly.
And like it doesn't make them any less good. It's just a different kind of movie.
Yeah.
Oh,
exactly.
I think I got a good example of that. Like, it's just mostly action, and it's just mostly kind of going with that flow, and it's not really about like a character. The movie John Wick. I don't know if you guys have seen it.
I haven't.
Oh, it's fantastic. Anyway, the setup of
heard.
that movie is it's basically Keanu Reeves, his dog, he gets messed up by the mob, and then the rest of the movie is him going after the mob and just killing everything in his path. Yeah, you can argue that most of the movie is just him killing people, but that's not what the whole movie is centered around. I'm not going to spoil it, but when you watch the movie, there's actual depth to why he's killing these people, why they're doing this. And yeah, like you said, the same statement can apply to any action movie ever.
And like
Even any movie ever.
in the comics, like they do deal with, I think, more like quote real problems. Like in the 70s, you had Green Arrow's sidekick having a heroin addiction and stuff like that, and like you had a Spider-Man story where one of his friends' brothers had like an addiction and stuff. And
Yeah.
I feel like they have more time to deal with that stuff. But when you're making a movie, you don't want to, clutter the movie with all these like little things. You have the big conflict, maybe a couple subplots, and that's what you have. And that's
Yeah.
an obstacle that maybe that medium needs to, tackle. But I don't think it's a glaring problem that needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I agree.
As long as there's depth
sorry guys,
to
I'm
the
just
story.
going to get some water if you want to tie this segment up.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sure.
we'll then do a movie of the
Like
week.
I said, there's depth to as long as there's depth to the character development, as long as there's depth to the story. We don't need a shitload of plots that's saying that like they help some people or shit like that. You need to understand something. Not everything has to. You cannot have everything show you. You can't know everything. You don't need to know why they're doing this. You don't really know like what's going on in their daily lives. All that matters is what the central conflict is and why they're doing this. And if the reason they have behind it has enough backing behind it to where you get behind it, then you root for them. That's what and as long as you have a good director, a good writer, and you just show them like the journey of getting to their goal, then you have a good film and a good book or a good TV episode. And you're trying to break it down that every piece of fiction ever should explain like every little piece of the side character's past and what they're doing in their daily lives. What the fuck does it matter? It's only an hour-long piece of film, or an hour and a half long. Like film, a book. A book, I understand. If you're saying like a book should have more depth in what they're going on in the daily lives, I can get that. But we're talking like comic book movies and comic books in general. They aren't
Not
that
just
long.
comic
Like a lot of
but superheroes in general.
Right.
Exactly.
So whether it's
Yeah.
Superman or Spider-Man, Superman or Spider-Man, or even going as far as Son Goku, I mean, we don't have to know too much about, like George said, we don't have to know too much about their lives, but they do have these powers,
Exactly.
and they already know what to do with them. They don't have to deal with whatever social issues we're having. That's not
Exactly.
They don't have a place for that.
Right.
Exactly.
There are movies where you deal with these real world problems, and there are movies where you
Exactly.
don't. And I feel like superheroes, for the most part,
Yeah.
land in the second category.
Okay.
Exactly.
I think we've run our course with this, so I think
Yep.
if anyone else wants Maybe Proto, do you agree with everything?
I agree with everything. Every single word, and George, you nailed it right in the head with that one.
Thank you, Proto. Thank you so much.
No problem.
I've gained I hate to brag, like I come off like bragging a lot. I know I stay quiet a lot during a lot of these podcasts, and I try to give you guys time to speak. But the reason why I'm so pissed at this is because I don't know if you guys know this, but I've been really trying to inspire to possibly be a filmmaker. And so I've been paying a lot of attention to basic archetypes, basic structure, and shit like that. And when I see something this idiotic, this poorly written, this poorly thought out, it just enrages me because it shows just how little they actually understand about the entire spectrum of the art of storytelling.
I mean, for the record, I think The Verge is a pretty bad news website. If you look at some of their other articles, it's very short-sighted, very whingy. It doesn't really take into account a lot of things. They're quite bigoted, really.
Yeah.
Like this
this
article was extremely bigoted. Like we said, he complains about if Batman solves all his fistfights this way, blah blah blah. It's like, well, exactly as I said, like, have you not seen the fucking Dark Knight? He was going to give up being Batman because
hell, in Dark Knight Rises, he said he gave up being Batman for 8 years.
Yeah, and he only became back to being Batman because he had to.
Exactly.
So it's a very short-sighted article, really.